across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Anything going on at all? Not much. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 full throttle hours of news, views and dazzling debate. Get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000. Let's face it, there's one hell of a lot to talk about tonight. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, January the 15th. Here's what's coming up. Sensation as Robert Jenrick is sacked as Shadow Justice Secretary, booted out of the Tory party, and in a day of high drama, immediately joins Reform UK, an extraordinary saga that left Kemi Badenoch reeling and all of Westminster asking the big question: is this the final nail in the Conservative coffin? What do you think after the shock defection of their most dynamic minister? Is this the end for the Tories? 03444991000. At a mesmerising press conference tonight, Jenrick sat alongside Nigel Farage and in no uncertain terms put the boot into his former party, in which he said he has lost all faith. Citing the failures when in government of Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride and former Home Secretary Priti Patel, Jenrick declared that he doesn't trust the Tories on welfare, immigration, and has no confidence in them to fix broken Britain. Earlier this morning, Badenoch got wind of Jenrick's plans to quit with a damaging resignation speech and promptly sacked him. Naturally, the Tory faithful accused their ex-leading light of treachery and personal ambition, but admitting that he's been in talks with his new recruit for months, Nigel Farage thanked Kemi for hastening the astonishing defection. A stunning sequence of events. But is the signing up of yet another Tory, just days after Nadeem Zahawi crossed over, a good thing for reform? Or are Nigel and his team in danger of turning into a retirement home for disillusioned Conservatives? 03444991000. Of course, we'll dwell on this political earthquake with expert commentators and opinions throughout the show. But in other news, despite West Streeting saying that he'd be shocked if lying, conniving West Midlands Police Chief Craig Guilford was still in his job by the end of today, guess what? The pathetic little creep who conspired with Muslim extremists to ban Jewish football fans from Birmingham is still clinging on, courtesy of Jeremy Corbyn's favourite police and crime commissioner, Labour lefty Simon Foster, who is refusing to even think about dismissing Britain's worst top cop until at least January the 27th. Why the delay? Just get on with it, eh? 03444991000. Plus, Labour is accused of cancelling democracy after inviting dozens of councils to call off their local elections in May ahead of boundary change reorganisation. Also, why has Starmer banned a female Dutch right-wing activist from Britain? She's been told her presence here would not be conducive to the public good. And yet Two-Tier seems content to let in thousands of undocumented migrants about whom we know nothing, day after disastrous day. Surely their presence, 100,000 of them or more, is not conducive to the public good. He hasn't got anything to say about that, has he? 03444991000. And finally, Royal Guru Kinsey Schofield on Homesick Harry's plans to leave Meghan behind and forge a new role as a part-time frontline royal. in his home country, the home country he left. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together, and I need a good helping hand tonight. I need a really, really good political expert, and guess who I've got for the first hour of this eventful show? He is, of course, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, my normal Thursday pal, Philip Kisley. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. What a day.
What a day. Yeah, what a day. Where should we start? Well, look, the stories going around this morning were that, you know, that Jenrick had been plotting with the reform to cross the floor, as it were, for months, for weeks and months, and that somehow or other he was planning very soon, possibly within the next 24 hours, a dramatic resignation speech which would have been incredibly damaging to the Tories. The word is that Kemi got wind of that, actually got a copy of the speech. There was a story going around that he'd left it lying around. Now, first of all, I think you'll find we're not really in the paper era anymore. The idea that he would have a paper copy seems a little bit 1970s, doesn't it? And the idea that then he would just I knew I'd forgotten something. That resignation speech, shouldn't have left it on Kemi's desk. What a mistake. I'm not really buying that story, but somehow or other she found out and seized the initiative, to be fair, probably did the only thing she could do, which was to sack him on the spot, call him a traitor, and say that she had clear evidence he was set to defect. Hilariously, she did not cite to which party he was heading. So we were going, what do you think it is? Communists? Green? Lib Dems? But of course, what happened was, so for a while people said, oh, well played, Kemi, you know, bad situation, but you made the best of it. But, you know, frankly, by the end of today, by this afternoon, it was just caving in all around her, because Farage was in Scotland welcoming the new Scottish leader of the reform. Yeah. He got wind of what has happened down in London around Jenrick, and he got straight on a private jet, flew down to London, and as you saw a couple of hours ago, we witnessed an incredible press conference in which Jenrick defected to reform, and Nigel Farage says, thank you very much, Kemi, because we're in negotiations. I didn't expect it to happen so soon, so you precipitated Robert Jenrick joining this party. So that is the former shadow Justice Minister, leading light of the Tories, probably the most dynamic member of the Tory cabinet. What I mean, probably, definitely, has gone. He's now signed up for reform. Well, look, we've got lots of clips to play about the events of today, but before we start hitting you with them, your thoughts, Philip?
Well, it's just been extraordinary. I mean, the level of brutality here, I don't think I've seen, certainly for a long time, in politics. I saw Kemi's speech this morning, and while I kind of understand that she had to do it and she had to deliver that speech in that way, for me it was uni-party management speak. It was, you know, it was fairly soulless. I think it demanded something else. So she was on the back foot then, but it was a mess anyway. You know what? He'd been leaving stuff around. I mean, this is passive aggression. This is passive aggression on a monumental scale. But it just goes to show the mess inside the Tory party. I mean, the brutal, personal, horrible, vindictive mess that's inside the Tory party. And there are two stories here, aren't there? One is the death of the Tory party, I think. I can't see how it can survive, because I think other big beasts or other historically significant figures, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, I wouldn't be surprised, you know. Those kind of people, I can see them going over, because there is nothing there. The Tory party is a husk now. So I'm not sure where that goes. But the other story is, and the key story is the next page. Reform are, you know, the new opposition, aren't they? I mean, they have been for a long, long time. But I suppose within that story, are they something new and dynamic? Are they going to change Britain? Are they going to take us to this new era? Or are they Tory 2.0.
I mean, mathematically, very significant day for Reform. They now have 6 MPs, which gives the party leader, Nigel Farage, the automatic right to ask a question in PMQs, in Prime Minister's Question Time. That's significant. Also, you know, on a more prosaic level, he will now be among the party leaders to lay a wreath on Remembrance Sunday and so on and so forth. So this represents the increasing legitimisation of Reform UK, and frankly, I think, let me know what you think, folks. Is this the end for the Tories? Does it effectively now mean that despite only having 6 MPs, the effective opposition now in Parliament and around the country is Reform UK? And does this now speed Nigel Farage's journey to number 10 Downing Street? Will he be the next Prime Minister? And your thoughts on this extraordinary day. Well, let's remind ourselves of what Kemi Badenoch, that's 03444991000. Get on the phone, let me know what you think. Because I'm keen to hear. It's a hell of a day, seriously. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk, particularly today. This is Kemi Badenoch on sacking Robert Jenrick.
This morning, I removed the Conservative whip from Robert Jenrick after dismissing him from the shadow cabinet. I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues. It is my responsibility to protect our party, and faced with that information, I took the only decision that any responsible leader could.
Well, Kemi, it's been very nice to know you. Thank you very much for that. No, I mean, I think that she'll be on borrowed time from now on. I'm not sure how much longer her leadership can go on. I mean, the Tories today look like a disparate mess. They really, really do. You know, firing out allegations quite understandably of treachery and personal ambition. A politician in Westminster is treacherous and full of personal ambition.
Who'd have thought?
Never
Who'd have
heard
thought?
of
Who'd
that
have thought?
before. No, but I do think that with Jenrick, I think it was pretty clear. He was one of those politicians, a bit like Suella Braverman in her day, where we all look at him and say he'd love to be in Reform, this guy. You know, he's stuck in the Tories, but you can tell he wasn't comfortable there. This is Jenrick back in September 2025 on his potential defection. Let's play that.
I reached out to Nigel in September. I could see then the Conservative Party wasn't changing, couldn't fix Britain. I didn't know that I was going to defect. In fact, we didn't discuss that. I just knew the responsible thing to do, the honest thing to do for me, was to explore all options. From the conversations that we've had since, quietly, and from what I've seen Nigel and Richard and Zia and Lee and Danny and Sarah say and do publicly, I am convinced that Nigel and Reform will deliver the real change we need. Nigel knows, Reform knows, the extraordinary challenges that Britain faces require a comprehensive plan to turn our country around. That'll be a major priority for this year. As Nigel has said, we will set out to build and recruit the team needed to execute that plan.
Now, the thing is, Philip, that Jenrick has talked today about something he clearly has been feeling for a long, long time. The story of the narrative surrounding the Conservative Party is for 14 years under first Cameron, then Theresa May, then Boris Johnson, then briefly Liz Truss, who in my view politically was the best of the lot, by the way. But politically she was the best. Practically, in reality, not perhaps a major triumph, but good while it lasted, about 43 days. No, seriously, so she was a blip. And then Rishi Sunak, all of those Tory leaders seem to forget what the hell the Conservative Party is supposed to be. And that's why I think Reform are rising and rising, are doing so well, is that, you know, I've spoken to very senior members of the Reform Party about this. I just said, well, you call yourself Reform, but what you really are is what the Conservative Party used to be when the Conservative Party knew what it was, where it had confidence in its own positions. Cameron came along and said, oh, we've got to start hugging a hoodie, we've got to care about the environment. You know, those Labour people, you know, we've got to be more like them. And Theresa May said, yes, let's be the migrants' friend, let's open our borders. And along came Boris. Oh, the net zero project, yeah, green, 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 it's marvellous. This wasn't conservatism. No. And Nigel Farage has prospered because he basically has just said, if you're a traditional, if you're a traditional Conservative, so am I. This is what Reform UK are. Come on over. Which is why, while I do understand the fears and misgivings of some Reform UK members that it's becoming something of a retirement home for disillusioned Tories who think they're going to lose their seat in the next election anyway, so they might as well come over to Reform. I do understand that, but you must understand that when someone like Jenrick, who's obviously, you know, a proper right-wing person, old school Tory, and Danny Kruger, it's not exactly a shock that they felt not at home in the new left-wing Tory party and do feel at home in the properly right-wing Reform Party. So I think that criticism, while I understand it, some people I think go over the top about it. But Jenrick today spoke about what I've just said, about how the Tories, the Conservative Party, in 14 years of basically left-wing mismanagement, betrayed the people of this country. Here's what he had to say.
I said, I think more than anybody else in the Conservative Party, the truth about the last Conservative government. The day after the general election, I said the Conservative Party had failed in government, that there was hardly a principle they didn't betray. Hard taxes? They were left at a 70-year high. Sound money? Well, the debt tripled. Defence? Utterly hollowed out. Work should pay? Welfare exploded. Law and order? Prisons overflowed. In betraying its principles, the Conservative Party betrayed its voters, its members, and the men and women who elect me in Newark and Nottinghamshire.
He's absolutely right. I totally agree with him. That, you know, that's what the Tories are, traitors to their own cause. They betrayed the people. You know, they basically said, we're the Conservative Party, but we're going to give you socialist policies. God knows why. God knows why. They killed themselves. They literally committed suicide, political suicide. And one last clip to play you for now. Jenrick didn't shy away from naming names. Have a listen to this.
The people I'm about to mention are all decent people. But because I'm here today, I need to explain myself. I owe that to you, the public, and to the people who elect me. Look at the top table. The Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, has rightly attacked Labour for hiking taxes to fund more scrounging. But there's just one problem. He was the Cabinet Minister who oversaw the explosion of the welfare bill. And it was him who blocked the reforms that are needed. Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, created the very migration system that enabled 5 million migrants to come here, the greatest failure of any British government in the post-war period. When asked about this last year, she defended her actions. She doesn't believe she did anything wrong. Now look, I respect Kemi, but I don't trust the Conservative Party on immigration.
So Robert Jenrick doesn't trust the Conservative Party on immigration. He doesn't trust them on welfare. He doesn't trust them to fix broken Britain. Do you share his views? 03444991000. And as I said earlier, do get on the phone and let me know whether you think Jenrick crossing the House, as it were, joining Reform, is a great day for Reform, their biggest scalp yet. Or do you fear that this is in danger of turning Reform UK into the Tories, old school Tories Mark II? 03444991000. We'll go to break now and we'll get your thoughts, Philip, after these messages. Stick around, folks. Get on the phone. We've got to talk. 03444991000.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm still with, from the New Culture Forum, Dr. Philip Kisley. Let's lastly, Philip, just have a little listen to what Farage had to say on his conversations with Jenrick at this press conference this afternoon. Let's have a look at that.
I'm very surprised that this news is broken.
Are you, though?
Well, I never reveal private conversations with anybody. I'm going to say that I've had conversations with a number of very senior Conservatives over the course of the last week, over the course of the last month. Of course, I've talked to Robert Jenrick. Was I on the verge of signing a document with him? No. But have we had conversations? Yes.
So he was considering leaving the Conservatives and joining Reform UK?
I think virtually every Conservative is considering leaving the Conservatives, yes.
Have you seen all these Reform people? They've all got a kind of twinkle in their eye. Richard Tice was on just after, literally just after this story broke, on Julia Hartley-Brewer's show this morning. He's just like denying all knowledge with this kind of ironic smirk on his face. Now, I don't know whether Jenrick would have defected today or this week, but he clearly was way down that path and was going to do it. It was going to be massive. Now, as I say, Kemi seized the initiative for a while today, but boy, oh boy, did Reform get it back. She's had a terrible day. I mean, you answer that question I've asked the viewers. I think this is good for Reform.
It's great for Reform, and they're really enjoying themselves, and why would they not do? They've bagged probably, well, at least one of the most charismatic figures in British politics.
Yes.
And what's really interesting about Robert Jenrick is he's actually gone on a journey. You know, he's gone from a fairly wet position a few years ago to a real strong, classically Reform position position now. And you can say it, there was one word that leapt out to me in that footage, and that was he used the word scrounger. Yeah. So there's something really interesting happening there. And think about his relationship with the Conservative Party. So the Conservative Party over the last 15, 20 years have retreated from conservatism. They don't stand for anything anymore. And you can see,
that's it.
You can see Jenrick wanting, you know, wanting the meat of politics, wanting to be important. There's one thing about him, obviously, his personal ambition is massive and very important to him. I actually think that's a good thing.
There's no, I mean, you know, politics is a career like any other career. Most people in careers are personally ambitious.
And they do things.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, clearly, you know, Jenrick's very ambitious. Nothing wrong with that. And here's the other good thing. Apart from the thing, I think that, look, earlier this week when Nadhim Zahawi crossed over, I'm still in two. I don't think that was that great for Reform, because we had a lot of criticism from our audience. They thought, you know, another Tory, you know, lost his seat. You know, he's on the make. You know, is he really Reform, or is he just, you know, trying to climb the greasy ladder by switching to the party that is in the ascendancy? So I wasn't convinced about Zahawi. But Jenrick is one of those politicians, like we used to say about Suella Braverman, you know, palpably he was wearing the wrong political clothes.
Very much so.
You could sense his yearning to be sitting with Nigel on the game.
They didn't fit him.
They
didn't fit him. He was in the wrong party. But I think, I mean, I agree completely, and I think that from here on in, it's going to be a really interesting ride, because, I mean, there are so many big figures in Reform now, but just to get to those, I think, fourth-rate Tories, I think it's good that the focus now is on a real star. The challenge Reform will have, and I want to know what viewers and listeners think about this, because this is what I think. The challenge Reform will have is having those two great big personalities, those two great big political animals, Jenrick and Farage, in the same space, mainly because they're the same kind of politician. They're street campaigners. They trade on charisma. They are there. They're in your face. Now, I wonder how they're going to get on together.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it's politics. There's always going to be a lot of backbiting behind the scenes. But, I mean, Reform are pretty good because there's not that many of them of showing a united front. They can, you know, they can fit into one picture frame. So they can all stand there for a very nice, you know, friends, happy, snappy photos, that kind of thing. So, I mean, they'll be backfighting behind the scenes, but I think this is a good thing for Jenrick and a good thing for Reform. But I'm keen to hear what you think. Good or bad? Is this one Tory too many, or is it this week? Is it two Tories too many, or? Do you think this is a great thing? My sense, and I think Philip agrees with me, this is very good.
It's superb for them.
Danny Kruger was a great recruit as well, because there's another guy who you could sense was just uncomfortable on the Tory benches. He wasn't one of these new con socialists, and nor was Robert Jenrick. Now, here's the thing, Philip. Guess who's got it all wrong? It's Keir Starmer. These people...
Can we have it in Keir's voice, please?
This is a terrible day for the Tories. No, here's the thing. I'm going to play you a little clip of Starmer, our dear leader, our supreme leader, talking to Sky News in just a second, betraying the fact that, like so many of these old Westminster dinosaurs, they still think it's a two-party system. That's what we're witnessing, folks. We are witnessing, in my view, the disintegration of the two-party system. But look how wrong Keir Starmer gets this in this interview to Sky News about Robert Jenrick's defection. Have a look.
My question is, why did it take so long? Jenrick's been making toxic comments to try and divide our country for months and months and months. And it's only now, when he's on the verge of defecting to Reform, that Badenoch gets round to sacking him. So that's weakness on her part. There's a bigger story here, because we're seeing a flood of Tory politicians, ex-politicians, politicians going across to Reform because they know that the Tory party is a sinking ship.
So he's attacking the Tories. Look, I'll tell you who he should be attacking. He should forget about the Tories. What he's got to worry about is Reform UK, but he's seeing it through the prism of the two-party system. This is a really bad day for the Tories, so that's good for us. It really is not good for Labour, is it?
I think it's even worse than that. I think the party he's really competing with at the moment is the Green Party. That's how bad it is for them. The Reform are way out ahead. There's no chance here. And just one thing he said there, you know, Robert Jenrick was trying to divide our country. Really? This from the man who is clamping down on free speech, who is trying to ban X, who is banning right-wing commentators because they don't agree with him. Robert Jenrick's trying to divide our country. That is absolute palpable nonsense. Everything the man speaks is a lie, or worse still, just a misunderstanding. You get the impression when you listen to him that he's not quite grasped what's going on.
He's not. I mean, you know, so the way he saw this, his take on this was, oh, brilliant, what a terrible day for the Tories. It was a terrible day for the Tories, but what
it's the death knell for you, mate.
What the Prime Minister should be worried about, never mind terrible day for the Tories, triumphant day for Reform. He's got to start, well, why would I be giving him advice? But if he wants my advice, and he does ring me quite regularly for advice. No, he doesn't.
Because you get on so well together.
Yeah, because, you know, we're peas in a pod, me and old Keir. No, seriously, he wants my advice. Never mind about the Tories. I think they're done and dusted. What you've got to worry about, Keir, is Reform. So never mind, oh, she's so great weakness, this is a terrible day for more and more Tories crossing the country. Never mind the Tories, mate. Mind Reform. They're coming at you. They're coming for you. That is the problem. And for Labour, anyway. Another question to the audience. I think you agree with me. Do you think, you know, as I said to you earlier, do you think this is, you know, one of the final nails in the coffin of the Conservatives? And do you think what we saw today was another sign, another major sign, that the two-party system is disintegrating? Labour, Tory, that thing, that two-horse race maybe run. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Before we go to break, let's go back to this press conference and listen to Robert Jenrick praising his new boss, Nigel Farage.
Nigel has stood for the real change that we need now as a country for over a decade. Frankly, for most of my adult lifetime. If anyone puts party allegiance, personal ambition to one side, he is obviously the right person to lead the movement for change Britain needs.
Exactly. Now, I'll tell you why this fantastic audience of mine, I'll tell you why you're clever, because you are. You shared my misgivings on Monday about Nadhim Zahawi. I was thinking, what's going on here? You know, what is going on here? You know, former Chancellor suddenly, you know, he's a very successful businessman, clever guy and all that.
But he represents everything that was wrong about the Tories.
He was the bloody vaccine minister. He was the vaccine minister. And Jenrick, to be fair, that isn't really tainted by the Tories' hideous mishandling of the alleged COVID crisis. Zahawi's up to here in it. Vaccine minister, do me a favour. So you were right, in my view, to pour scorn and doubt on the recruitment of Nadhim Zahawi, but I'm seeing from my switchboard, I've been listening to talk all day, as I always do, as you all should do as well, and I can see that you believe that Jenrick crossing the House, going to Reform, is a very, very good thing. Gotta be, hasn't it? Gotta be. All right, let's play one more, shall we? This is Robert Jenrick talking about the two-party system.
These people run Britain as if they hate it. But whilst this government is accelerating our decline, They didn't begin it. We've had 20 to 30 years of this. And why has it happened? Because the two main parties are rotten. They are no longer fit for purpose. They both broke Britain, and neither can fix it. It's a conclusion about the Conservative Party that has pained me to reach, because I've been a member of this party since I was 16 years old. I've served it for most of my adult life.
And when he talks about a two-party system, by the way, I thought that, you know, that's another great thing for reform. They have recruited a supremely talented communicators, very good communicators.
Extraordinary,
Yeah,
I think. That.
yeah.
I'm just listening to that, and I'm just thinking about, God, it's been an emotional roller coaster today. I've run the full gamut. So when I heard Kemi talking, I thought, oh my God, you know, he's going to look really bad here because he's been sacked and he won't be going over to reform as a shadow minister. And then I hear that and I think, yes, he's the future with reform, you know. So these things are moving incredibly quickly. This is seismic. I can't remember something as potentially as important as this for a very long time.
And don't forget, the two-party system has been dominating British politics since the Second World War.
That's why I say it's
been going on forever. But I think what Robert's saying there, what Jenrick is saying, is that for the past 30 years, the two-party system has become toxic, pernicious, and not good for this country. And such is the rivalry of these two old war horses that they're so wrapped up in fighting each other that they've forgotten that they're supposed to be serving us. And their war zone, their battleground, if you like, has been very bad for the country. Let's go to break, and maybe we'll take a call after the break, but we'll talk about this some more. We are, before this hour is over, I promise you're going to cover one other story which I think is important. You won't believe it, Philip, but that low-life, lying, conniving piece of crap, that West Midlands Police Chief Craig Guilford, is still in his job.
He's still there.
Go in the name of God, Dunlop. Show some dignity, show some integrity, and just go. Just go. What is wrong with you? We will talk about that in a little while, but we'll come back to Jenrick after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still talking about the political earthquake in Westminster today, the defection of now former Justice Secretary, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Guilford. Robert Guildford. Robert, we're doing that in a minute. Robert Jenrick to Reform UK, massive story. And the dissolution, we think, or the dissolving of the two-party system. Do you now feel, Philip, that this is it? They are now heading for government, Reform UK?
I think so. I think that's a sensible thing to say. I mean, everything seems to be falling in place for them, but it's a reflection of the times. That if you would have asked me that yesterday, I would have said they're making all the wrong decisions and they're taking all the wrong people. But today something has changed, and I think this will override all of that negative stuff.
It is for our audience.
Well, it is for the people that I've been dealing with as well today, and I think going into the future, I think it's almost as though they've kind of, you know, put a flag in the ground and said, right, we are going to change. It feels as though governance is going to be really important for them now, and I'm just so delighted for them.
Let me give you a flavour of our audience are putting it brilliantly, as is their work. This is Roberto. Zahawi thinks he's doing Reform a favour. Jenrick knows he's doing them a service. Very well put, Roberta. Graham says, evening Kev, I was quite despondent about Reform with Nadeem Zahawi's defection. It just feels wrong. While he may have frontline experience, it is severely tainted. However, with Robert Jenrick on board, I'm starting to come back, you see. There you go.
That's the whole point, isn't it? And I bet lots and lots of viewers are feeling exactly the same way.
Yeah, this is important. This is important. So I've got lots of calls, but we will be discussing all of this later in the show. We'll be starting to put you on the show fairly soon. A little Conservative Party Chairman Kevin Hollingworth called Jenrick's move treacherous, disloyal and unforgivable. He told the BBC, it's fair to say Rob didn't take losing the leadership contest very well, so I think it's been difficult times with Rob trying to get him on side. I mean, frankly, this lot are just squirming. They know they've had a terrible day.
Do you know what the most tragic thing about that statement is? Most viewers will be saying, who the hell is Kevin Hollingworth? Do you know what I mean?
That's it. That's
where the Tory party are now.
There's two people in the Tory party that people know, or the Tory front bench, and that's Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch. They don't really know anyone else. So, you know, they've lost. Name recognition in politics is half the battle, and everybody knows who Robert Jenrick is. Do you think, Philip, that this will put a big cloud over Badenoch's leadership? I mean, she has been performing a lot better lately, certainly kicking Starmer all over the House, all over the Commons, in every PMQ's, Prime Minister's Questions. Even yesterday, she absolutely trounced him. So she's been performing better. She seems to have been telling a more coherent story. And the polls were reflecting that. But I think, you know, politics is climbing up the hill and then being knocked down again. She got knocked down badly. And going forward, after this, perhaps the Tories might decide, well, we need change. We can't go into the next election with her.
Yeah, I mean, they got up to 23.
Does it even matter?
Well, that's the point. That's the point I'm going to make, right? They got up to 23 in the polls, which was pretty good, but it's such a volatile time. The point is, she doesn't have the material to work with. She doesn't have quality MPs anymore because they're leaving her on a daily basis, and she's actually lost her star. You know, that's like Manchester United losing George Best in whatever year it was. You know what I mean? It's difficult to see where she can go if she can't do the work, if she can't put together a team to do the work. In a way, I feel sorry for her because, as you say, you know, she's been doing pretty well recently, but it just isn't enough. When I saw her this morning, I thought she just isn't enough. She's not up to the fight. But then again, nobody will be up to the fight because the Tory party has just been decimated. Yeah,
well, in the words of Steely Dan, she can't buy a thrill. I've got to talk to Kevin in Leicester later because he's made a good analogy. He said, Jenrick, He's on the phone. We'll talk to him later. This is generic. This is like Brentford signing Ronaldo.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Well, look, we will be talking later, so get your calls in. So many questions to discuss. Is this a good day for reform, or is it a bad day? One Tory too many, or maybe two Tory too many this week? Or is generic the big signing that will literally be the game changer? Change the dial, really be a game changer. Is this a good thing for reform or a bad thing? Is this the end of the beginning of the end of the two-party system? And are reform now heading for government? And what of the Tories? What will happen to the Tories now? Are they all over? Are they finished? 03444991000. But as I say, folks, there are other stories out there. We've ditched quite a few, by the way. We did have lots of
We're
different...
supposed to do about 15 stories.
I've ditched most of them, but there are some that demand our attention, and one is the continuing sordid saga of West Midlands Police Chief Constable Craig Guilford, who's still clinging on to his job, the pathetic little lying, conniving creep. So we will discuss that next. Stick around.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is a massive day, of course, talking about the defection of Robert Jenrick to Reform UK, but other stories are available, and let's do one now because this is still an important story. It is the ongoing sordid saga of the Muslim extremists' favourite top cop, Craig Guilford, the West Midlands Police Chief Constable, who incredibly is still hanging on to his job after a week in which the Home Secretary yesterday said she had no confidence in him. He was exposed as a liar. MPs are demanding he's been sacked after lying and deceiving the Home Affairs Committee the other day. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Wes Streeting and the Health Secretary spoke out this morning. Have a listen to this.
Yeah. I'm absolutely shocked that he's still in post. I genuinely thought that having misled Parliament, that having misled the public, and having had one of his own local MPs, the Home Secretary, saying she had lost confidence in him, I honestly thought that anyone with integrity would at that point say, I have to resign. And the fact he hasn't, I really think is a stain on his character that if he doesn't act quickly, he won't be able to remove. So we don't expect people in public service or public life to be perfect or infallible, and we know that people will make mistakes. But you do have to take responsibility for those mistakes. And when you've failed so fundamentally that you've lost the confidence of the community you serve and the people that you report to, it really is time to go. So I hope he does the right thing. I will be horrified if he is still in post by the end of the day.
So somewhere in London, probably West Streeting is sitting there horrified because Craig Guilford is still there. And he's there courtesy. Let's just recap very quickly, Philip, what this guy has done. Lied and lied and lied. He conspired and collaborated with Muslim extremists in Birmingham to ban Jewish football fans of Tel Aviv, Maccabi Tel Aviv, from their match against Aston Villa in the Europa League back in November. He said that was because the Dutch police told him that these Israeli fans are dreadful. They caused mayhem when they went to Amsterdam to play Ajax, and therefore he took that information on board. He said he also spoke to his colleagues, his Israeli cops colleagues over there in Tel Aviv, and they said, oh no, don't let them in. Both the Dutch police, the Israeli police said, well, we never even heard from him. The Dutch police said, we told him no such thing. He also has offered in evidence to the Birmingham Safety Advisory Council and the Home Affairs Committee. You know, when Maccabi Tel Aviv played West Ham, it was mayhem. Well, he had to write to the Karen Brady, I think that's her name, was it Musbury? Karen Brady, the committee chair, after his pathetic performance the other day, saying, oh, yeah, sorry, I got that wrong. That match didn't happen. We got that from AI.
That match didn't exist.
That match didn't exist. Also, he dropped this bombshell at the committee the other day, 2 days ago, was it? Or was it Monday or Tuesday? I can't remember. He said, oh, well, you know, there's another reason. You know, there's another reason that we banned the match because I couldn't guarantee anybody's safety. He said because the Muslim community said they'd take up arms and there'd be a war, and the MPs, you could hear it. The MPs went, "What?" They literally, "Hey!" And one of them went. One of the MPs said, why you're just telling us this now? Yeah. You've never mentioned it before. Why haven't you mentioned it before? He goes, well, you know, because nobody asked me.
Oh,
I mean,
wonderful.
You pathetic little conniving liar. What he did was he got in bed with the Muslim community to take an anti-Semitic decision to ban Jewish football fans from a match they had every right to attend, and that is a disgrace. He made all this nonsense about there's no such thing as two-tier policing, there's only one-tier policing where I'm in. Bullshit, absolute bullshit. And he is in, excuse my language by the way, but you're all grown-ups. I'm angry about this. I think you probably are too. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. He is in position still, Philip, because of courtesy of the Police and Crime Commissioner, a guy called Simon Foster. Ridiculously, he's the only person that can fire the Chief Constable. They won't be able to do soon because Police and Crime Commissioners have been phased out. Shabana Mahmood is taking steps to make sure that in future, if a Home Secretary doesn't have confidence in a police chief, she or they are able to fire them. Anyway, Simon Foster says he's going to wait until a meeting on the 27th of January. He wants to look at all the evidence, find out what the Home Affairs Select Committee have to say, all that rubbish. He's a lawyer, he's a solicitor, a legal aid solicitor, and he's a stickler for process. Worse still, he's a Corbynista. He's a radical left-wing member of the Labour Party. He loves Jeremy Corbyn. When he got his job in 2021, guess who congratulated him on Facebook? Zara Sultana. This guy is a radical Corbynista Labour Party member, and you know what those type of people think about Jews, don't you? That's what's going on there.
Yes, and because they are advocates for Islamism as well. Everything is tainted here, isn't it? And so we get the worst of all possible scenarios. We have this idiot still in post because the Home Secretary says, well, I've got no confidence in him, but it's not my job to fire him. We've got Simon Foster, who certainly won't, because he adores the radical element of the Muslim community. So we've got, yes, it's fine for them to look at this, fat, bald, sweating, hapless bloke. Let him take all the flack, but ultimately keep him there because he will appease the dangerous radical element of the Muslim community who've already admitted that they were preparing to commit a violent hate crime. Yeah.
Am I allowed to make a really, really shallow observation? Well, it's characteristic, isn't it? If you want to be, no, you're here to give some gravitas.
I'm here to listen to
my pathetically shallow proceedings. No, seriously, my point is this. Don't shoot me. If you want to be a conniving little liar, try not to look like Craig.
Conniving little liar.
He looks like a shifty little so-and-so, doesn't he? And he turns out to be it. I mean, and Perry Barr MP, Ayub Khan, the member for Gaza, the member for Birmingham, where Aston Villa is, Perry Barr it's called. His name's Ayub Khan. He's a left-wing Muslim, a Muslim extremist, I would suggest. He says that Craig Guilford is the victim of a witch hunt. He said that in the Commons. Yeah, right.
Well, he'd been spreading misinformation or disinformation, hadn't he? Actively spreading misinformation and disinformation. So, again, there is a huge problem here that is so deep and so complex. It goes from the community via mosques to the police force to Parliament and including in all of that the blob as well. It really does represent everything that's wrong about this country, that's unfair about this country. And if there's one thing that the British people do not like, it's unfairness. And I think most of them as well, the sensible people, really hate
And I'll tell you, there's a really serious element to this, because he's proved himself to be an out-and-out liar, a man who lies for expedient reasons. There are a lot of lawyers right now gathering around criminals who've been sent to jail or been convicted courtesy of Craig Guilford, and they are going to appeal. They're going to say, look, my client was convicted by this proven liar. Really? Can this conviction stand? This guy now is at the epicenter of British distrust in the police.
It's a brilliant point, and I think it sums it up, because if you've got something rotten in the core of things, the whole edifice comes crashing down because it infects everything else, and that's what we're seeing in this country.
Yeah, and I know loads of decent coppers begging or just hoping, praying that this guy will go, because right now, as I say, he is the personification of why we no longer trust the police. A man who doesn't do one-tier policing. Well, he does, because he does one-tier policing in favour of Muslims and against Jews. What happened to the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, that ban was a disgrace, because frankly, I'm going to say it, I don't think I can be contradicted. That ban was for anti-Semitic reasons.
That ban was for anti-Semitic reasons, because those fans were the victims of a Jew hunt in Holland, and one of those fans ended up in a canal, and the local Arabs would only pull him out if he said Free Palestine. That's the actual truth of the scenario, which is the polar opposite of what he's presented.
He's a liar, and he's got to go. Let me know. Craig Guilford, he must go. He must go, mustn't he? And soon. And we can't wait until January the 27th. 03444 499 1000. Big thanks to the fantastic Philip Kisley. Thank you very much from the New Culture Forum. We'll be back in a minute with Isabel Oakeshott. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of this special edition of the Political Asylum, a very eventful day, extraordinary day, a political earthquake as the now former Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick crossed the House, defected from the Tories and joined Reform UK, an act that was speeded up, we think, because the Tory party leader Kemi Badenoch got wind of the fact, apparently, that Jenrick was about to make an extremely seismic resignation speech and sacked him this morning. So for a while she had the initiative. By the end of the day, I think it's fair to say she lost the initiative. It's been a terrible day for the Tories, make no mistake about that. And a brilliant day, I think you're all agreeing, for reform. Joining me now is Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, welcome.
Good evening. Well, what an extraordinary and exciting day in politics.
It really, really was. Now, here's the deal. This is what's interesting. You and I talked on Monday night, and you know, I was relaying to you the clear misgivings of our audience, many of whom are Reform UK supporters, about the recruitment, the crossing over of former Chancellor and I think more pertinently former Vaccine Minister Nadhim Zahawi. They didn't like that much, and they were worried. They said, oh my God, you know, the reform's turning into, you know, Conservative Party light. It looks like a retirement home for disillusioned Tories on the make, etc., etc. They really didn't like it very much. Today, so I was wondering when I heard this incredible story this morning, I was wondering, I said, I wonder how, you know, the great Talk audience will react to this. Well, I'm looking at my switchboard. I've been listening to it. They love it. They love Robert Jenrick coming to Reform. As I just said, this started out, a lot of people say, well played, Kemi, you've done the right thing. Well, I think she did the only thing she could do. And for a while, you know, she looked to be on the front foot. She'd seized the initiative. But by this evening, after that press conference, you know, it turned into, as I just said, a terrible day for the Tories and Kemi Badenoch, and clearly a triumphant day for Reform.
Absolutely. I mean, that press conference was like nothing I've ever heard before. You know, I have never heard. There aren't many defecting sitting MPs anyway. It's a pretty unusual thing to do. We've got slightly kind of we've slightly normalized what is actually historically a very rare thing to do, to cross to another party. And in that context, I've never heard anyone take such a wrecking ball to the party that they've left. I mean, you know, the Tory party was a pretty shaky edifice before Jenrick just took his smashing ball to it. I really wonder what's left tonight after he lifted the lid on what really goes on behind closed doors in the shadow cabinet as Kemi Badenoch and her colleagues discuss whether or not Britain is broken and whether or not they're at all sorry for their part in it. Because he's just told us, you know, this is very much a breach of what you just don't do that. You know, he's given us the fly on the wall account. And he's confirmed what many, I think, of our listeners have long feared and suspected, that the truth is that the Tory party leadership, the people who were responsible for why this country was in such a dire state when Labour took over and have proceeded to make it worse, those people are not sorry. Most of them don't think they did anything wrong. And it was Jenrick, who has really been something of a lone voice. It's been very clear observing him since Kemi Badenoch took over, since Jenrick lost that leadership contest with her, that he's been quite isolated, you know, because he was one of the ones that was saying, look, we actually really did screw this up. And he had the advantage of having been one of the few ministers in the last Tory administration that did actually resign on a point of principle.
Yeah, indeed. Now, let's just play a couple of clips from that press conference where, as you say, in a sense, Robert Jenrick broke all the rules by naming names and really going for it. So this is him on, if you like, 14 years of Conservative betrayal.
I said, I think more than anybody else in the Conservative Party, the truth about the last Conservative government. The day after the general election, I said the Conservative Party had failed in government, that there was hardly a principle they didn't betray. Hard taxes? They were left at a 70-year high. Sound money? Well, the debt tripled. Defence? Utterly hollowed out. Work should pay? Welfare exploded. Law and order? Prisons overflowed. In betraying its principles, the Conservative Party betrayed its voters, its members, and the men and women who elect me in Newark and Nottinghamshire.
And here he is, as I say, this is seriously breaking the rules, naming names.
Now, the people I'm about to mention are all decent people. But because I'm here today, I need to explain myself. I owe that to you, the public, and to the people who elect me. Look at the top table. The Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, has rightly attacked Labour for hiking taxes to fund more scrounging. But there's just one problem. He was the Cabinet Minister who oversaw the explosion of the welfare bill. And it was him who blocked the reforms that are needed. Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, created the very migration system that enabled 5 million migrants to come here, the greatest failure of any British government in the post-war period. When asked about this last year, she defended her actions. She doesn't believe she did anything wrong. Now look, I respect Kemi, but I don't trust the Conservative Party on immigration.
And what he's doing there, Isabel, in my view, he is articulating exactly what the former Tory voters feel betrayed by. And as he quite eloquently said, you know, too many Tories, too many top Tories refuse to confront that. You know, they sort of say, well, yeah, we did betray the people a bit. Yeah, we did get it maybe a little wrong on welfare and immigration, and the migrant crisis wasn't great. No, no, no. These were profound betrayals. And that's why I think more and more people are flocking to reform, including now Robert Jenrick.
I mean, make no mistake, Robert Jenrick was the big one. When it came to who did reform really want to defect, it was actually out and out Robert Jenrick by a country mile. I think reform, many people in reform would like Suella Braverman to join, and there may be other figures as well that people have thought about. But time and again, it was Jenrick that people said, when is he coming over? Is he coming over? Here's hoping he'll come over. Why? Because for the last, whatever it is, 18 months since Kemi's been leader, it's a bit less than that, he has just worked so hard to show that how opposition should be done. You know, instead of making careful little speeches from behind a lectern with a carefully written, boring script and, you know, rehearsed words saying that you're sorry for things that, you know, that just doesn't sound authentic at all. He's gone out there, rolled up his sleeves and got stuck in exposing what is wrong with the country, and at the same time never denying that his party had so much responsibility in why we are where we are. This is massive. This is so seismic in terms of the future of the Conservative Party. This is now basically, as David Frost has written very eloquently in tonight's Telegraph, this is a fight to the death. And that is how, politically, Nigel Farage has seen things for a long time now, he has wanted to kill off the Tory party. Forget all that parlour talk, that Westminster talk about pacts, about coalitions and stuff. Make no mistake, the leader of Reform wishes to kill off the Tory party and will not be happy until it is gone. And that is why he is absolutely focused on the May elections, which he sees as basically likely to deal the final blow to what remains of the Tory party.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, that's how I began the show, by asking the audience, do you think this is the end for the Tories, that this is this is a huge scalp, Robert Jenrick, obviously, that scalp is in effect going to prove to be pretty much the final nail in the coffin of the Conservative Party? Do you think it's all over for them? And given that, how much longer do you think Kemi can survive? Do you think they'll stick with her? As I say, we all know she's been performing a lot better. She's been very good at PMQs lately, but this is a death blow, isn't it? Will the Tories defenestrate her and try someone else? Or does it even matter anymore? What's your feeling?
Well, I think that just to inject a bit of balance here, because I don't want people to think I just come on here and shout positive things about Reform. So here's the balance. Reform now has, what, 7 MPs, or is it 6?
Six. That, by the way, that is very significant. It means that Nigel Farage now, as a party leader with 6 MPs, has the right to ask a question at PMQs, and he will lay a wreath at the Remembrance Sunday. So numerically, mathematically, this was quite a big day.
Oh, I think there might be something else there as well. I think possibly it might mean that Reform is entitled to so-called short money, which is quite a slug of money that you get from the taxpayer if you're a...
It's all building up, isn't it? It's all building up as a picture. Reform are rise and rise, Tories down and down, yeah?
But the balance I wanted to say is that the Tories are still the official opposition. The trouble is it's increasingly hard for them to act as if they are, because everybody kind of knows that the momentum is with Nigel Farage's party. So the Tories have a numerical advantage. They've got the sort of, that's the thing in Prime Minister's questions, all that performance in the theatre, that is a Kemi Badenoch show against Keir Starmer if he's actually in the country, or whoever it may be. I suppose one thing that might be accelerated now is actually on the Labour side of things. You know, as Reform looks more and more powerful, the more rattled actually Labour are going to become, because although our focus has been on talking about the Tories, Reform is a massive threat to Labour in the north. And we know that Starmer is very weak, and I wonder whether this will actually accelerate Starmer's demise as he increasingly looks at as his party increasingly looks at Reform and thinks they are the ones that are going to be our serious competition in the polls ahead.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to play you a clip of the Prime Minister Keir Starmer talking to Sky News earlier, and I think he's got this proves how wrong he's getting it. This is a man, in my view, still looking at politics through the dying prism of the two-party system. So his only take on this was, what a terrible day for the Tories. Oh, they're showing where Kemi Badenoch's so weak and so on and so. He doesn't have to worry so much about them. He shouldn't be looking at it in that respect. He should be looking at Reform and saying, this is who I've got to worry about now. Have a listen to this.
The question is, why did it take so long? Jenrick's been making toxic comments to try and divide our country for months and months and months. And it's only now, when he's on the verge of defecting to Reform, that Badenoch gets round to sacking him. So that's weakness on her part. There's a bigger story here, because we're seeing a flood of Tory politicians, ex-politicians, politicians going across to Reform because they know that the Tory party is a sinking ship.
Yeah, I think we can all work that out. But you see what I mean, Isabel? You know, he's seeing this through in the form of, what a terrible day for the Tories. Oh, it's a terrible day for Kemi. Yes, it was. What he should be concentrating on is the other side of that story. Never mind a terrible day for the Tories. What this was was, to use your adjective earlier, a seismically triumphant day for reform. That's what he should be worried about.
Absolutely. Now, reform now has, I think, the beginnings of taking shape now of a shadow cabinet. And I think that whether or not and when Nigel Farage does actually make shadow cabinet appointments, and he did reference that in the press conference this afternoon, he said in coming weeks he's going to be making some announcements about shadow roles. Whether or not he does that, it's becoming more difficult for reform's critics to say, oh, well, they just don't really have anyone that's got enough experience or clout or whatever to be a shadow cabinet. Now, he may only have 6 MPs, but there are some pretty heavyweight figures now who are attached to the party, even if they're not in Parliament. And I could envisage him giving out those roles to people that are not actually MPs. Partly out of necessity. You're going to need more than 6 jobs, and he might not be giving big jobs to all of his MPs. I don't know. But you can begin to see the shape of something there that is going to reinforce the impression that reform is where all the momentum is at. And I think there will be a lot of panic in Labour Party ranks when they've absorbed what this actually means, which is the demise of a right-wing Conservative Party, because Jenrick was the kind of talisman for that, wasn't he? The torchbearer. They will realise the scale of the threat that now faces them electorally.
And Nigel Farage, obviously having the time of his life. I don't think the day began brilliantly for him, but he certainly retrieved the day for reform, turned what was a bad start into a triumphant finish. And he was having great fun, obviously, at the press conference, saying, oh, well, you know, what was it? He said something about, oh, you know, loads of Tories are thinking of coming over. And do you think that is the case? I mean, perhaps more big names might come. You know, this could be the thin end of the wedge.
I don't know. I mean, there is a scenario under which Jenrick actually brings a string of people with him in coming weeks. Nigel Farage made a surprise announcement this afternoon saying that the drawbridge goes up on the 7th of May at the local election. So anyone who wants to defect needs to do so before then. And there will be a number of right of centre, you know, proper right-wing Tories. There aren't that many of them in the parliamentary parliament. Yeah. But I can think of a few that I know have been very seriously considering defecting, who will now think, right, well, it's kind of soonish or never. So I would imagine that the party will get a handful more. I don't think it'll be, you know, a mass exodus, because if there were masses of them on the right in the existing Conservative Party, then Jenrick wouldn't need to have done what he's done.
I'm hearing also that there may be several Labour MPs considering, you know, doing a Lee Anderson and coming over to reform as well. So I don't think we've seen the end of this story. Final question to you. Obviously, champagne corks popping at Reform Towers at the moment. What sort of mood do you think Kemi Badenoch will be in right now?
I mean, in a sense, she's had a kind of a good day and a bad day, hasn't she? I mean, she has looked better, and I thought that, you know, as you said at the beginning, she did try to seize the initiative. But I mean, really, what she's surveying, however tough one tries to be,
it's a shipwreck, isn't it? Come on,
is a smouldering ruin.
Yeah.
You know, there's really not much left, and that kind of demolition of the Tory party record was devastating. I'm just not sure how you rebuild from that. I don't think the Tory party ceases to exist, but I think it limps on and becomes something quite different. You know, basically a Lib Dem party.
Exactly. Fascinating. What a fantastically intriguing day, and I wanted to get your take on it, Isabel, and I've got your take on it. It's great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much. That is our Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott, obviously very well connected to Reform UK, what with one thing and another. So interesting. We'll come back to this story. I've got lots of calls. In fact, we'll start taking your calls in about sort of about 20 minutes or so. So 03444991000. But you can't just abandon all other stories. Big significant story going on today, and that is the fact that the Labour government has invited dozens, more than 30 I do believe, local councils to consider cancelling their local elections in May, because Labour says, we're redrawing the boundaries, the constituencies will change, there's reorganisation, and there's no point in having an election because we'll elect a council, there'll be a zombie council, and within weeks we'll have to dissolve that council. So we need to wait. So they've invited more than 30 councils to cancel their elections or postpone them, and we understand, not surprisingly, Labour councils are queuing up to take Keir up on his very kind offer. But of course Labour have been accused of cancelling democracy. 4 million people now potentially will be deprived of their right to vote in the local elections because Keir Starmer or the Labour government have called them off. Is this really reorganisation? Really boundary changes? Or is this Labour running scared because they know, to use Barack Obama's phrase, they're going to get a serious shellacking come May, come the local elections. They're going to get annihilated. Which way do you think the cookie crumbles on that one? 03444991000. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about what critics say is the cancellation of British democracy that should stress Labour. The Labour government are saying that this is nothing to do with cancelling democracy. Steve Reid, the Cabinet Minister, the local government secretary, said today that actually the public want this. I'm not sure where he's getting that from, but what he says that they want is to call off dozens of local elections, more than 30 in May, because there will be boundary changes soon afterwards, reorganisation, and in effect people will be voting for local councils that will only be in office for a matter of weeks, so they'll be like zombie councils. So Labour say it's purely bureaucratic and we might as well wait until the boundary changes have come in and we've reorganised and then have the elections. Critics say no, 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 you are running scared because you know you're going to get thrashed in all of these local elections, therefore it's handy for you to cancel them. They've in fact invited, they haven't cancelled any, they've invited councils to consider whether or not they want to postpone their local elections. A lot of the Labour councillors are going biting their hands off, going yeah, because they're the ones who are going to get beaten, probably by reform. Nigel Farage says he's going to take legal action to try and stop this. He says this is the cancellation and assault on British democracy. 4 million people potentially will lose their vote, their chance to vote under this proposal. Let's talk to former Labour MP Simon Danjuk. Welcome, Simon.
Good to join you, Kevin.
Before we get onto this, an inevitable question, your thoughts about the Robert Jenrick sensation today crossing the House to join Reform UK?
Quite an incredible day in politics, in British politics. You don't get many days like this, Kevin, do you?
No.
I mean, I was struggling to get any work done, you know, doing the normal day job, following it develop as it went around. And you can't help but think that Kemi did the best of what she could with a bad situation. I mean, she came out, you know, early on calling Jenrick out. But as you just pointed out in your conversation to Isabel Oakeshott, I was listening to that fascinating discussion. You know, Farage initially caught on the hop, but in classic Farage style, retrieved the situation, and by the end of the day, having a press conference with Jenrick by his side and thoroughly enjoying it. But yet there are a few days like this in British politics. It's almost like a reverse takeover by the Reform UK party of the Conservative Party, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And do you think this is the beginning of the end for the Tories? Do you think perhaps they're literally going to fizzle out? This was a nail in their coffin?
You know, I was trying to say this on social media, but you know, you've only so many words in which to say it.
280.
yeah. The what they could do, I mean, what Kemi Badenoch should say in terms of messaging is to say, listen, a load of the, you know, Conservative MPs or ex-MPs that we didn't really like have gone to Reform, vote for the genuine article, we're still the Conservative Party, vote for us. Now, I don't think that'll wear too well. A lot of wets are left back in the Conservative Party, almost Liberal Democrats in the Conservative Party. That was the problem. That's why they're so unpopular today. And unless she radically changes tack in terms of policy, she's going to get thrashed by Reform, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think Reform, in effect, if they weren't already today, became the official opposition, no matter what the system in the House is. Well, let's move on to something else that concerns Reform, and indeed the Tories as well. This big story, it was going to be, I think, probably the big story of the day before events took over. But 4 million British citizens are set to be deprived of their vote come the May local elections. I should stress that Labour are insistent that the reason for this is purely bureaucratic. There are boundary changes coming up, and should these elections go ahead in May, councils and councillors would only be in office for a matter of weeks before the boundary changes and the reorganisation, so they would in effect be zombie councils, therefore might as well postpone them. Nothing to do with cancelling democracy. Nigel Farage and other critics, the Tories as well, say no, you are cancelling democracy, depriving 4 million people of their democratic right to vote, and Nigel Farage says he's going to launch legal action. Which side of the fence of that argument do you fall on, Simon?
There's no doubt about it, Kevin. This is an attack on democracy. I'm convinced of that. And looking at it objectively, you know, one of the critics of what's happening here, and this isn't just relevant to Reform, the Conservatives, this is relevant to the British people. Britain is built on democracy. It's one of the, you know, standpoints by which the country has been governed and developed over hundreds of years. And it's being attacked. And I'll get to the point why it's being attacked. But just remember, the Electoral Commission came out in December. This is an independent body. Said the cancelling of elections is unprecedented. Asking councils to, you know, whether they want to cancel them is not acceptable. It's a conflict of interest. This is the Electoral Commission that said this, not Reform or anybody else. The Electoral Commission, an independent body, who are criticising the Labour government quite rightly. And I have some experience of this. I was a councillor on Blackburn Council in the 1990s when we moved from district council to unitary authority. I don't believe we cancelled any elections. And this idea that councils, oh, well, we can't cope with capacity issues. Listen, I know local government exceptionally well. They run local elections in their sleep because they're doing them every year or at least every 4 years. They're doing by-elections, they're doing general elections, they're doing European elections. It's not a capacity issue ever. So the idea that a Labour government could come out and ask 62 local authorities, do they want to cancel elections? Well, of course. It's like asking turkeys to vote for Christmas, isn't it? Which politicians, you know, want more elections or want to be held accountable? They don't. And so it's a travesty in my view.
Yeah, of course, Labour, Starmer's government, insisting they're not cancelling or even postponing any elections. They are merely inviting local councils whether or not they'd like to consider postponing their elections, which is like saying to these Labour administrations, would you like to lose the election in May or would you like to cling on to power? That's essentially the question they're being asked. Guess which way they're jumping? They're all going to say, no, we're not going to have the elections. It is, you know, got to pay respect to what Labour is saying. They insist this isn't cancelling democracy, but it sure as hell looks pretty much like that, doesn't it?
That's exactly what it is. And if you look at the bigger picture, and you've alluded to it there, Kevin, the more seats that Labour lose in May, this is in Scotland, in Wales, in the local elections, the more likely Keir Starmer is going to be got rid of by the people around him. That's the reality of it. So by cancelling elections, it reduces the chances of Keir Starmer being knifed in the back by Wes Streeting or Andy Burnham or Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, whoever it might be that's going to go for the leadership against him. The fewer elections that they lose to Reform or even to the Tories or to the Scottish National Party, the better it is for Starmer. And that's the fix on this. That's the reality of it. That's the biggest story.
Absolutely. And interestingly, today, Starmer, I think getting it all wrong, characteristically in my view, he was seeing this as a great day, you know, with the defection of Robert Jenrick, because, oh, look at the Tories, they look so weak now, they're in disarray, they've lost this mate. He should be looking not in terms of the bad day for the Tories. I think that is less relevant for Labour. What I think is more relevant is that this was a triumphant day for the party that is emerging as the serious opposition, Reform UK. He seems to me to be like a dinosaur trapped in the old school two-party system, whereas a new system is emerging. He needs to raise his game, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, politics is changing dramatically, isn't it? Or it has done over the last 12 months, 2 years, 12 months, with more parties involved, the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, Reform surging ahead, no doubt about that. He, in many ways, is like a rabbit caught in the headlights.
Yeah, he is.
It has been a good day for Reform. And it's not been that bad for Kemi. It could have been worse for Kemi. You know, she's handled it relatively well. Starmer couldn't even get rid of Angela Rayner. He had to, you know, he had to be dragged kicking and screaming to get rid of Angela Rayner. He's not a very decisive decision maker, whereas at least Kemi's come out of this reasonably well. I think he's going to struggle.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Simon, really good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. Simon Danjic there, former Labour MP. I didn't realise there's as many as that. More than 60 councils have been invited to consider postponing their May elections. Now, think about that. If you're a Labour councillor likely to lose, Labour council likely to lose, you're going to accept that invitation, aren't you? That seems to be the problem. Let me know what you think. Is the Labour government, in effect, cancelling democracy, depriving 4 million people of their vote in May? Is it cancelling democracy? 03444 99 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about the banning of a Dutch activist who the Labour Party described, the Labour government described as far right. And she says that she hasn't done anything wrong and that she's just been told, she's got the letter, that her presence in Britain would not be conducive to the public good. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about a Dutch activist. Her name is, unfortunately, her name has got maybe the most syllables I've ever come across in a surname. It is Eva Vladingerbroek. Eva Vladingerbroek. She's well known. She's as I say, she's a right-wing activist, classified by Labour, of course, as being far right. And she's been banned from Britain. She's been told she can't come because her presence would not be conducive to the public good. Here she is.
So I just got an email I didn't expect. I have officially been banned from traveling to the United Kingdom. I'm not allowed to enter the country because the UK government under Keir Starmer deems my presence in the UK, and I quote, not conducive to the public good. I don't know what that means. Since when is being conducive to the public good a requirement to enter a country? I mean, especially the United Kingdom, where, if I'm not mistaken, thousands of illegal immigrants enter through the channel every day.
Now, I find this disturbing. Now, you may not agree with Eva's opinions. She's certainly right of centre, to say the least. But her opinions are not illegal. You're allowed to be right-wing, aren't you? Why is she being banned? Now, her ban coincides with a tweet, an X post she made about 3 to 4 days before she was banned. And she was criticising the Labour government for its proposal to completely ban X or Twitter because of the Grok scandal, the putting of bikinis on real life women's bodies on their heads and all that, which as I always thought, well, that's not great, that's bad, it's wrong, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not exactly hardcore porn, is it? However, she said, oh yeah, well you're going to ban X because of putting bikinis on ladies' faces, but you don't seem to be so worried about women's welfare when it comes to the rape gang scandal and the rape gang inquiry, which you keep putting off. So she tweeted something along those lines and then got banned from Britain. I think that's a bit sinister. Let's talk to Pink Lady, Sarah White. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Good to have you on the show. What do you feel about this? I mean, you're not known for your extreme left-wing opinions, are you? You're right of centre. Yes. And I would suggest that if you were Dutch and you were planning to come to Britain, you'd have got banned like Eva. This is sinister, wrong, and I think an attack on free speech. This is a left-wing government saying we don't want people who disagree with us in this country.
Exactly. I mean, I would 100% be banned. I'd never be allowed to set foot in this country. And how can you ban someone when you told President Trump that we have freedom of speech and that we live in a democracy in the UK? We obviously don't, but it seems to, it plays into a dystopian narrative. And before we know it, where are we heading? But it seems to work in Starmer's favour, doesn't it? It's like we're not allowed to criticise him, but he can let people into our country who want to basically cause terror and hate all white people. If you look at, was it Alaa Fatah?
Yeah, the Egyptian guy, yeah.
Bring back in, the hypocrisy.
Exactly right. And as I say, it's a bit like Keir Starmer. It's interesting what you say, that sequence in the Oval Office to this day drives me mad. Do you remember when J.D. Vance and Donald Trump were having a go at Trump, saying, oh, you keep arresting people outside the abortion clinics, you keep doing you're sending people to jail, for what they say. And Keir Starmer goes, no, we've had a very bold and long tradition of free speech for hundreds of years, for 300 years. We're very, very proud. And I'm sitting there watching it on the telly going, yeah, but you're putting people in jail for tweets. That's not respecting freedom of speech. And I think Eva's ban is that kind of syndrome.
It is, definitely. And at the end of the day, if we bring Eva over on a rubber dinghy, she'll be welcomed into the country. So I'll be happy to go over and bring her in. I know who I'd rather be sharing a dinner table with is Eva. I don't want to be sharing a table or anywhere near any of these people that are breaking into our country. And at the end of the day, if Starmer really sees that she's conducive to the British public, why isn't he doing something about these men that are coming here, raping, sexually assaulting and murdering not just women and children, but men as well? It's got to stop. And it's two-tier all the way. There's two-tier policing, two-tier justice system, two-tier on online regulation. It's just complete double standards. So you have to be a level playing field with all. You can't just pick and choose what you want to do. And basically, let's have it right, it's because he was criticised.
Yeah, and Eva pointing out, whilst she said, well, you're banning me, essentially, of course, you know, Starmer might not like her opinions. A lot of people might not like her opinions. It's not the point. It's not illegal to be right-wing. But she's pointing out, oh, but you're banning me. I'm not conducive to the public good. And yet every day in every way, you're letting in hundreds, thousands every year of undocumented, mainly young men who we know nothing about, who cross the channel illegally. So you don't have any problem with that. But I, a legal Dutch citizen with opinions you don't like, you do have a problem with, and you've banned me.
Yeah, and where did it all stem from? Is it because, you know, it's obviously because he's been criticised. She's also supposed to be speaking at Tommy Robinson's UTK march in May. She spoke at it last year. Does that all play into he doesn't want people associated with Tommy Robinson? He classes us all as far right. And at the end of the day, you know, if he was competent at his job, maybe more people would like him in this country. And the only people that I actually see wearing bikinis from these Grok videos is him and Sadiq Khan. You know, so
yeah.
Does he
Somebody did it to me, Sarah. Seriously, there was one on me with a bikini on.
Well, I'm sure you probably looked a lot better than Keir Starmer.
Well, I think I looked a lot better than I normally do, to be honest with you. But seriously, you know, I couldn't care less. But I do think, you know, that to take a woman's head, if you like, and put a different bikini body on is an infringement on that woman's privacy, on their dignity, and I think it's very wrong. I think it should be banned if possible. But we all know what goes on social media. A lot worse than that. You know, there's child porn out there, there's serious hardcore porn.
If he was really that bothered, he would be protecting children that are being groomed on a daily basis by paedophiles. You know, and if he is not banning Grok because of that or wanting to ban X. He picks and chooses what he does. He's doing it because he's openly criticised at an alarming rate because he's incompetent at his job. That's really what it comes down to, because he doesn't want to be criticised. The whole world can see what he's really up to, the two-tier system in this country, and that's what he doesn't want. He wants to silence all of us.
And just remind me who owns X or Twitter and who owns Grok. Oh, I know. It's Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the bitterest enemy of Labour. So that's what I mean. He's
Elon Musk, who openly supports Advance UK. So, you know, he probably wants Advance silenced as well.
Yeah, Advance UK, Ben Habib's party. Ben Habib staged a triumphant return to my show the other day, and we'll be on every Tuesday. And I hope you come on a lot more as well, Sarah. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That is Sarah White, Pink Lady there. What do you think about that? The banning of a woman from Holland, the Netherlands, Amsterdam, I think, who has right-wing opinions. I mean, she's I don't like the term far right, it's ridiculous. But she's right-wing, and a lot of people won't like her opinions. That's not the point. You know, there's a lot of opinions I don't like, but you can't ban people just because you don't agree with them. And I don't agree that Eva represents or is not conducive to the public good. I'll tell you what's not conducive to the public good in Britain is a government that is banning people for what they think, banning people from this country because of their opinions. That's not conducive to the public good. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break and let's start taking phone calls. When you come back, you know, things may come, by the way, folks, and things may go, but Kinsey Schofield, the show goes on forever. Kinsey will be joining me after the 9 o'clock news. But first, let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. And also, after Kinsey, I'll be taking more of your calls. Got quite a lot of calls, as you would imagine. So get your calls in about generic. You might want to talk about the banning of Eva. You might want to talk about the alleged cancellation of democracy, or that little liar, the Chief Constable of the West Midlands Police, Craig Guilford. 0344 499 1000. Get on the phone. As I say, you know what I'm going to say. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. That next.
every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm going to take some calls in just a second. I got a message from Kath. Great show, Kev. Thank you, Kath. She says, fabulous contributors, and your impersonations are something else. I would buy a ticket to watch you on stage. That's Catherine in Cardiff, who's easily pleased. If they talk about my Keir Starmer impression. Let's go to the phone, shall we? Let's talk to Kevin in Leicester. Hi, Kev. We got a note from you. We were praising your analogy earlier in the show that Reform signing up Robert Jenrick is like Brentford signing up Ronaldo. Do you approve? Do you think? I don't know if you're a Reform UK supporter, but if you are, do you think this is a good day for Reform?
I think it's a fantastic day. By the way, I just wanted to say that I agree with your last message. Whoever's just sent you that, and you are amazing, Kev.
Well, thank you very much, Kev. You can come on again. Jenrick, though, your thoughts about Jenrick?
Yeah, and Jenrick, no, he's a good politician. I've always admired him. I've previously, until the last election, I've always been a Tory voter. I think he's more of a genuine Tory member than the others. They're not all, I mean, there's still some other good members in there. I'm a big fan of Ian Duncan Smith, Esther McVeigh. There's still some good members over.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're exactly right. But they are like the last remnants of the proper Conservative Party. I think, the likes of David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, and of course Rishi Sunak. They've basically betrayed the whole idea of conservatism, and therefore I think Reform UK, probably like yourself, have offered a new home to traditional Conservatives, and that's why I think Jenrick has gone to Reform UK, because he was not comfortable in the political clothes of the new socialist Conservative Party.
Yeah, I think your analogy is spot on. He's just gone somewhere where he feels his political views can be more accepted. I mean, you've got to look at what's happened since Labour have been in government. You know, Robert gets out there, he's been doing other things, he even comes on talking. He's been getting out, and he definitely does lean more to the, I want to say a Thatcherite belief, but
I think that's quite a good point. Look, do you agree? I'm sensing you do agree with this, because you said you voted Tory until the last election. Are you one of the millions, I might suggest, of Tory supporters who felt betrayed by, Cameron, Johnson, May, Sunak? Did you feel betrayed by those 14 years?
Yeah, I did vote for them in those 14 years as well, and I voted for them when neither of everyone stepped down, and I believed in Boris like an idiot. This is why I worry about 16-year-olds getting the vote. But I did, and it was sad that you could see, the way that the party was swinging to the left and to the right, and there's still, like I said, they've got both sides in there. But I'm a member of Reform as well as a voter. I know that there's controversy with some of the other people who took on, but this is a massive signing, in my opinion. I can't see any negative to it, and I just think he's only going to be a bonus. I think people should be happy about it if you're a Reform voter.
That seems to be the consensus, that it's a great day for Reform, that Robert Jenrick was not comfortable in the Tory party, and he's come over to the party that he's best suited for. This is a good fit for him. Did you have misgivings, because I know a lot of people did, about the signing on Monday of the former Tory vaccine minister, Nadhim Zahawi?
Well, I did, but I don't think he's going to be an MP anyway. I think he'll be like Anne Widdecombe. I mean, he's got a good business brain. And
no doubt about that.
I don't really like him as a. I don't know what he's like as a person actually, but some of his policies, I wasn't keen on. But you know, so I probably had the same as most people. But I do think he's a clever man and will be useful. And I know.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kev. Yeah. I mean, he's a brilliant businessman. You know, self-made multi-millionaire. You know, founded YouGov and all that sort of thing. You know, there's no doubt he's got a brain on him, and he knows how government works. You know, having been a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, for God's sake, so he knows his way around Westminster. So that will be good for the Tories. It's just that a lot of people felt, well, he's an opportunist, isn't he? He's on the make here. He's just trying to sort of climb aboard the party on the rise and leave the party that seems to be disintegrating. So I think a lot of Reform supporters were, shall we say, uncomfortable with Nadhim Zahawi because, you know, that feeds into the idea that Reform is little more than a sort of retirement home for disillusioned Tories who lost their seats. But I think Jenrick, whatever downside Zahawi presented, Jenrick has raised the fortunes of Reform right up again, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't really argue with any of that. I mean, I was listening to all your callers on when Zahawi was mentioned, and you look at it today. Just look online. You look at the reactions today compared to the other day. It's completely different, and there's reason for that. So people were right to be a little bit irritated the other day, but it's a massive job building a political party. This is a massive positive step, though, today. I can't see any negative about it. But, you know.
Well, you're not alone, Kevin. As I say, my switchboard on Monday was full of people going, oh, no, we don't want this, we don't want this. So actually, you know, Farage crowing, oh, yeah, huge scalp. And he was a big scalp, old Zahawi, but people didn't trust it. Reform supporters didn't trust it. But the consensus today is Jenrick is a fantastic recruit for Reform, and this is a great day for Nigel Farage's party. So you're not alone, Kev. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for a great call. Call me again, I'm sure you will. Kevin in Leicester there. Right, as I say, things may come and things may go, but the royal circus goes on forever, and so does Kinsey Schofield, who'll join me from the West Coast after this break, after the news, to discuss the latest goings-on with Harry and Meghan. What is happening on Planet Harry and Planet Meghan? Lots to discuss. Also, we need to talk a little bit about Prince Andrew, although that's not his name anymore. It's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So all of that with Kinsey Schofield after the news. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now it's the final hour of tonight's excellent, eventful political asylum. 60 sizzling minutes still to go. I want you to get on the phone 0344 499 1000. Your thoughts on the earthquake that happened in Westminster today, the political earthquake, the seismic defection of former Tory shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick to Reform UK. Big press conference tonight. Started off good, kind of okay for Kemi. She found out, she sacked him, but Nigel Farage wrested back the initiative, and by the end of the day, terrible for the Tories, brilliant for Reform. Your thoughts? Is this a good day for Reform, or are they recruiting too many Tories? Is Jenrick a good fit for Reform? Do you think the Tories are now on their way out forever? Are they on their last legs? Is this the end of the two-party system? So many questions to talk about. 0344 499 1000. You might want to talk about Craig Guilford, the lying, conniving West Midlands Chief Constable, Police Chief Constable, who is still pathetically clinging on to his job. He should be sacked. He should be sacked now. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. But for the next 20 minutes or so, let's talk royals. As I say, the royal circus goes on forever. So let's go live to Los Angeles to talk to our royal guru, the great Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, a lot to catch up on. We just did Recollections May Vary on my channel, and that was incredible. We had great numbers and a lot of great insight from you about what could be causing tension with the Sussexes. Yeah, well, for the benefit, we covered some really interesting ground. This is Kinsey's podcast, one of her podcasts. It's called Recollections May Vary. I was honoured to be the guest this week, so Kinsey interviewed me as opposed to the other way around. And for the benefit of the people that won't have listened to Recollections May Vary yet, I want to go over some of the ground that we covered because I thought it was fascinating. And the essence of what we talked about was this: increasing reports in America that I think we can give some credence to, that Harry has become very disappointed and disillusioned with his life in America, rejected by Hollywood, projects failing, friendships he hoped to forge either failing or not materializing at all. He's kind of lonely there. Of course he's got his family, and no one is saying he doesn't still love his wife and his kids. Of course he does. But increasingly the stories are suggesting, this is being reported, that he feels he has no real sense of purpose in America. There is nothing for him to do there, and therefore he is pursuing the dream he's always had of a kind of half in, half out member of the royal family, that he wants to spend more and more time in Britain, hopefully in his mind performing royal duties, frontline royal duties, and then fly back to California to be with his family. So a sort of bit part-time royal, part-time American family man, if you see what I mean. Now, we also hear that Meghan's not very keen on that, to say the least, because she wants a sort of all-American future for her and her husband. But we are seeing these stories appearing in the press that the prince is close to forging a peace pact with his dad, King Charles, and that King Charles is offering him somewhere to stay at Highgrove when he comes back. And, you know, the indication that perhaps he will spend more and more time in Britain, less and less time in America, and that is causing some marital friction. Your thoughts? My thoughts are, well, we just saw this week this very bizarre handoff of what Harry and Meghan told us
within the last 2 years, in 2024, was their legacy, which was this parent initiative that they had jumped on board with, where they were campaigning to protect children online from the harms of social media and social media bullying. Well, we just saw them hand this charity off to someone else. And it, you know, related, unrelated, kind of related, it makes you ask yourself, what are these two truly committed to? Can these two commit to anything? Whether it's a charity, this is Meghan Markle's second marriage. They quit their jobs as working members of the British royal family. They quit Senabale this year. I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair discussion to explore when we do see a pattern with Harry and Meghan, and it's a lack of commitment. It's a willingness to quit. Spotify, Archetypes, Confessions of a Female Founder, American Riviera Orchard. The list goes on and on of Harry and Meghan sending the big press release, making all of these proclamations about what they anticipate to execute, and then backing down. So is it fair to look at their professional life and say, let's compare it to their personal life?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think you sent me this story. This is their online harm campaign. Harry, I think, is genuinely very committed to that, which is their campaign, which they launched last year to try to protect children from online harm on social media, the internet, and so on. As you say, they've kind of stepped back from that because their charity, now called Archwell Philanthropies, has kind of handed over the mantle to another organisation. And this isn't to say that Harry and Meghan won't still be involved, but their commitment to it seems to have dissolved to some extent. And what I thought, you sent me that story, what I thought about that was, Harry won't be pleased about that, because I think Harry's very committed to that. Meghan, soon after they launched that campaign, rejoined Instagram, which didn't look like a statement of intent when it comes to online harm. I don't think Harry is very keen about that. So
can I tell you what I think actually happened here?
Yeah, go on.
I think it's Senabale 2.0, and they learned some very rough PR lessons from the Dr. Sophie Shandaka fallout, and so they wanted a peaceful transition versus leaks from other members of this charity saying Meghan is difficult to work with. We don't enjoy working with Harry and Meghan. They refuse to compromise. I think instead of having those horrible headlines that Dr. Sophie Shandaka had instigated through the Senabale fallout, Harry and Meghan opted to do a peaceful transition to try to avoid that chaos, because the Archwell spokesperson pushes back, saying that this is something they do all the time. It's simply how they operate, incubating projects and then spinning them off into independent, sustainable organizations. And they specifically use Invictus and Travelist as examples. Invictus and Travelist are, first of all, royal family initiatives. They began, the seed was planted under the British royal family umbrella. And if you look at the Parents Network, their website, Harry and Meghan don't have roles there. The Parent Network, they've handed it over to Parents Together. You don't see the Harry and Meghan presence, where with Travelist and Invictus, they still very much are the face of the brands. So it's my personal opinion that there was some friction behind the scenes, and they did not want a fallout similar to Senabale. So they choreographed a nice exchange to avoid headlines like Meghan Markle is a bully and Harry is racist.
I'll tell you what I think about this, though, as you've indicated. This is, folks, if we didn't make it clear, this is their campaign against online harm to children, a very worthy cause, no doubt about that. They were spearheading this themselves, and they've kind of handed the mantle on to another organisation, which looks suspiciously like a stepping back, although that isn't to say they're not still involved in the campaign. But I'll tell you what it looks like to me, Kinsey. This looks like once again the subjugation of Harry's interests, of Harry's desires, of Harry's wishes to Meghan's. He's very committed to this. She rejoined Instagram and therefore doesn't look very committed to it. And just generally speaking, this feeds into why it is being reported that Harry is increasingly disappointed with his life in America, because it's all about Meghan's vast array of endeavours, you know, like As Ever, that she's now currently acting in a film. She wants to make more podcasts. It's all about her. Everything is about, and he has to play second fiddle to everything she does. Partly it's because America is her country, California is her state. She knows all about Hollywood, and Harry doesn't. So he doesn't like playing second fiddle. He wants to reclaim his own pursuit of happiness. He realises his own mental health is at stake here, and the only way he can get back his sense of purpose, his sense of self-respect, is to do the only thing he knows how to do, and that is to be a frontline royal. And that's why he's desperately trying to retrieve this system that the late great Her Majesty the Queen refused him. You know, she said you can't be a half in, half out. It's one or the other. If you want to leave, fine. You can't be a part-time royal. He is now trying to get that after all, because the only way he can as I say, regain, retrieve, recapture his sense of purpose, his sense of self-respect, is to work, and the only work he knows how to do is how to be a royal. The problem is William is unlikely to let him, and we hear the king is feeling a little bit emotionally blackmailed by these stories that are clearly being planted, strategically placed by the Sussex spin machine to suggest this is all pretty much a done deal. Harry, just you know, T's to be crossed, I's to be dotted. Harry will be back here soon, staying at Highgrove with his dad and back on the royal beat. I think that's running ahead of the truth a long, long way, and apparently the king's not very happy about it, and we know what William feels. William despises Meghan, doesn't really like his brother. I think William will block it. But Harry is desperate to get back to what he knows in order to regain his self-respect. Would you think that's a fair summary of the way he's feeling right now?
Yes, but I also think that Meghan is 10 times more ambitious than he is. And so while she's keeping herself busy with all of these different projects that she doesn't necessarily completely execute, if we're being honest, 40 by 40, like rest in peace, I do think that he can't relate to her amount of ambition, and he does feel sidelined because she's always on to the next thing. But you're right, because sources told Radar that this dispute... That's
Radar Online, the journalistic site. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
About this dispute around Britain was deeply emotional and threatens to tear them apart, you know, geographically and emotionally, with the source saying the tension between them isn't rooted in a breakdown of affection or commitment, which is something you've said too. You feel like he deeply loves her. It's driven by two very different anxieties pulling them in opposite directions. Harry has become increasingly fixated on the idea of being back in Britain more often. He brings it up repeatedly, according to the source. He's conscious of his father's health and is concerned about that. And he feels like opportunities for reconciliation are slipping away. Meanwhile, Meghan feels like she was beat up there. There was the quote that you and I went back and forth on about Meghan saying she didn't want to put her children in that position. And we were like, what position? You were celebrated. The headlines were incredible. People loved you. So Meghan still has a real bad taste in her mouth about the UK, despite the fact that she's basically hijacked some of your most loved traditions to try to push her lifestyle brand.
Yeah, indeed. And are you buying into what there's been, as you and I have discussed, this sudden plethora of stories, headline-hitting stories appearing particularly in the British media about, oh, Harry's going to come back. The King has offered him Highgrove to stay at. He's about to finally win his long legal battle to get armed police protection when he comes back to the UK, because he says that's vital to his safety. So if he gets that, yes, he can come back. He's definitely homesick. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But among these stories, you know, they're saying, and he will bring Meghan back in July for a pre-Invictus Games event in Birmingham, our second city. I mean, it's just like day in, day out, these stories are appearing, and they're giving us a story that is, or a series of stories that are in no way confirmed. In no way do we know that he's about to get the police gun guards that he's been demanding. In no way do we actually know that Meghan's going to come back to Britain in July. I stick by what I've always said. I don't think she'll ever come back to this country, but I may be proved wrong. In no way has it been confirmed that the King has offered him Highgrove to stay in when he comes back. And in no way has it been confirmed, this is another story that's appeared, that the King will join him at the Invictus Games when they unfold next year to open the games. So, you know, all these stories, they look great, they make great headlines. There's no confirmation, and you can't help, call me cynical, but you can't help suspecting that all these stories are emanating from the Sussex spin machine. This is what Harry wants. This is his dream scenario, as opposed to what might actually happen. I'm very doubtful about all these stories. What do you feel?
I'm like so torn right now, because I just had a conversation with Matt Wilkinson, who I love, at The Sun.
Yeah, cool.
And
Royal editor at The Sun, folks.
And some of them are my future husband as well. Some of them are...
So I thought I was your future husband. Oh, no, I'm a bit old, aren't I?
I love your wife. Don't you dare get me in this kind of trouble. But I think that these are true stories that Matt is receiving from legitimate sources close to Harry and Meghan.
Yes, exactly. I'm not knocking Matt. No.
Is it wishful thinking?
Yeah. Well,
I believe it could be. You know, I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm not like being critical of his stories, but is it Harry's goal? And is it Harry's goal to have his father there? Yes. Is it likely that he will have his father there? I don't think so. Nor do I. Because, and here is, there's one word that, in my view, puts all these stories in great doubt. And by the way, you're absolutely right, Matt Wilkinson, these are totally valid stories. My suspicion would be, Matt would never reveal his sources, but my suspicion would be that his sources are coming from the Harry side of the fence. I don't think there is, as I say, there is one word that I think makes all of these stories unlikely, and the word is William. William, I think, will not want his dad to open the Invictus Games. William will not want Meghan back here. And William will he will literally block any idea of Harry performing frontline royal duties on a part-time basis. So I think William is the roadblock to all of this. And you said the other day when we talked to McKinsey perfectly correctly, it's an old PR publicity technique. Plant stories that paint the picture of exactly what you want, even though they're not confirmed. And quite often those stories tend to come true. If you get your dream scenario into the press, your dream scenario could well happen. But I suspect William will not let any of this happen, and I think you might agree with me. you know, if the king were to stand next to Prince Harry at the Invictus Games, it would give him the royal legitimacy that he needs to come back to the States and commercialize his proximity to the British royal family. And I think that they've done a lot of damage in that arena. You know, the further we get away from Megxit, and the longer we don't see him engaging with the British royal family, the shine rubs off. Like, we no longer consider him a member of the royal family. We start considering him a member of Oprah's group and Tyler Perry's group, and you know, we flash back to the Kardashian photos, and you know, not to be ugly, but it cheapens his brand. The royal family does the absolute opposite. When he's standing next to the royal family at a funeral or at a coronation, it elevates his brand. Then we have Dior announcing that he's wearing a Dior suit at King Charles's coronation. And that's the lifestyle that they're currently chasing, that influencer lifestyle. That's what they want. And so I think that Prince William is savvy enough to know that there are some very selfish reasons for Harry's attempts at reconciliation. You don't see Meghan trying to reconcile with her father, who recently had a limb removed. You only see pursuits when it comes to Harry and the king. And I believe that it's guilt, Harry knowing that he said a lot of things that were extremely unfair about his family throughout the fallout. He was driven by a need for cash and emotion and vengeance, that nasty piece of Princess Diana that he has in him, that revenge. And then I also think that he wants to be reconnected to his dad because he misses being loved and being a member of the royal family. Because that's much easier to monetize than being loathed because of the woman you married.
I mean, not to put the headline on this is Harry, as I say, rejected by Hollywood. None of his projects have worked out there. He doesn't really have much to do. He hasn't made any friends in particular. He's lost on the West Coast. The headline is he's just homesick and he wants to spend more time. He misses his mates. You know, he used to love going to the pub and, you know, playing polo and sport and all that. You know, he was what we call in Britain a bloke. You know, he was a bloke's bloke. A guy's guy, as you might say in America. He wants that back. But typical Harry, he wants his cake and eat it too. He wants to come back for a few months, you know, cut a few ribbons, open a few libraries, have a few pints with his mates, play a bit of polo, see his dad, you know, be adored by the British public, and then head back to the sunny West Coast to be with Meghan and the kids. That's what he wants. These are the stories that are being planted. But I think...
And the Queen said, no half in, no half out. And it cheapens, again, it cheapens the royal family to go against the Queen's wishes. If the King wants to keep his authority, he needs to respect what the late Queen said, and he needs to follow suit.
Yeah, totally right. So, as I say, headline is he's homesick. He wants to retrieve some of the life he's lost, but William will probably block it. I mean, do you... And by the way, I'm with William on this. You know, William won't...
we know.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, Harry's behaviour has been appalling. You know, all the slurs in TV interviews with Oprah on the BBC, his awful little book Spare.
He indicates that someone within his family wants to hurt him in that last BBC interview.
Well, I think it was his dad. He thinks his dad's trying to kill him or something.
Yeah, I mean, he indicates that there is someone that is going behind his back and wreaking havoc on his relationship with Ravik, and that's why I'm so curious to see what happens in the next few weeks as Ravik. I mean, another point we should make is a lot of these headlines that are coming out are likely also to try to influence Ravik's decision about his automatic security.
Because that, I think, you know, he's always made it clear that he says I need gun guards, police gun guards when I come back, official armed police protection for my safety, and then maybe, Meghan's safety, maybe the kids, if he manages to bring them back. He said that's a deal breaker. Got to get that. So they're placing these stories that's about to happen. And as I've said to you before, I just don't see it. The government here in Britain has spent a damn fortune fighting Harry every inch of the way, saying we are not going to waste British taxpayers' money protecting you with armed policemen when you come over here because you're not a frontline royal. That is not a fair use of British taxpayers' money. You live in California. Organise your own security. So all of a sudden it goes, oh yeah, well they're about to change their mind. Why would they do that? So if he doesn't get that might change the entire picture. But as I say, I think it's going to be a fascinating few months ahead to see how many of these stories that we increasingly reel. Every one of these stories is, oh yeah, Harry's going to get what he wants. Oh, Harry's going to have a great time staying with his dad. Oh, the King's going to go and help him open the Invictus Gates. Oh, look, he's going to be a part-time royal. Everything Harry ever wanted. Isn't that a coincidence that all these stories are in the press? Let's see how many of them...
Also, isn't it interesting that all these stories are in the press within days of them losing some very critical PR associates?
Yeah, that's right.
Like a shift. You're seeing a shift in strategy.
Yeah, interesting. Well, interesting times ahead as well. Kinsey, fantastic to talk to you, and you have a great weekend, and we'll talk on Monday. The brilliant Kinsey Schofield there on the latest goings-on Planet Harry and Meghan. You can give me a ring about that if you like, but you probably want to talk about Robert Jenrick. We'll go back to that in a minute. 03444 99 1000. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but when we come back, your calls, and I'll read some messages. Get on the phone, 03444991000, and at 10 o'clock, in about half an hour, I will hand over the reins to Andre Walker and Ash Gould, and they'll take you through from 10 p.m. into the small hours, 1 a.m. Much still to come. Stick around.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listen up, you lucky people. Coming up tomorrow, there's 2 TV shows hosted by me. Aren't I brilliant? Seriously, no, not really. But seriously, at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Plank of the Week, brilliant show, hosted by me, goes live on YouTube. Here's a little sample of what you can enjoy if you tune in.
For feeding the pigeons. The lady's getting arrested for feeding the pigeons, my lady.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
I like that guy. I mean, what a snapshot of modern policing, modern Britain. That is just off the scale insane, isn't it? Isn't it?
You know what infuriates me about this clip is that the police have the power of discretion. So is there some regulation somewhere that says you can't feed pigeons in this park? Probably. But they still have the discretion and the confidence to say, we're going to apply some common sense here to a woman who's obviously got, you know, the right intentions and is not causing any sort of harm.
Doing the nice thing.
Doing the nice thing, and yet they still don't use their discretion there when they do use their discretion to not prosecute or even investigate shoplifting or any other such proper crimes that go on in modern London. Like, it is the warped priorities, which I think is driven out of cowardice. It's easy to put that chick in handcuffs. It's much harder to actually solve proper crimes.
Look at that lady. How old is that lady? Around about 60, I would say, maybe slightly younger. She's a middle-aged lady. Why are there 12 coppers there? What are they, cowards? They are. She's not 60, is she? I did her a disservice there. Yeah, just so you know the story. So what we do, just in case you don't know the rules, we just go through the biggest... We choose the biggest idiot of the week and we go through the various contenders. That's the Metropolitan Police Force here in London arresting a lady for feeding the pigeons, for putting bread on the sidewalk, on the pavement. What? She got a £100 fine for feeding the birds. So very, very strong contender there, but lots of other contenders as well. So tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m. And that's available, of course, all day for the rest of time, in fact, on YouTube. Later on tomorrow night, around about 9 o'clock, my other show goes live here on Talk and onto YouTube on Saturday. That's what just happened, but I'll tell you all that. About all that tomorrow. Lucky I don't have to do much every week, isn't it? Right, let's... Oh, well, I've been wanting to read this because I'm a big head. This is Jen from Wolverhampton. She says, it's been the Kevin O'Sullivan Appreciation Society this week. It has a bit. I've been getting lots and lots of embarrassing praise, which modesty has forbidden me for reading out. Actually, it hasn't. I've been reading them all out. This is... Jen says... It's been an Kevin Asylum Appreciation Society this week with very good reason. Thank you, Jen. I love the way you put a different slant on stories that we have been hearing all day. I may be swayed from my Tory loyalty after the events of today. There you go. That's the job of this show. We come on at 7 p.m. Stories have been around all day. Quite often, I just go, that one's boring. Let's not do it. We do what the hell we want on this show, and we hope that you enjoy it too. So, yes, Jen, you're right. We do put a different slant on everything, and we do different stories. We do what interests us, and we don't do boring stories. No potholes here. Let's go. Let's go to Derek in Manchester. Hello, Derek.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah, you've been talking all night about the Reform Party taking in Tories, and to be quite honest, I think he's gone a bit beyond the joke. They're taking anyone in. They're no longer what they promised to be, which was a Reform Party. They might as well be the Tories. Might as well.
So that's an interesting take, Derek, because you know the other day. I mean, you've been listening to the show, so you've heard what I've been saying. But on Monday, you know, by the way, I am studiously neutral. I'm not here to promote reform or anybody else, but I'm just trying to. Deal with the facts here. On Monday, no, I wanted to say this. On Monday, when Reform said, oh, we've got Nadeem Zahawi, the former Tory vaccine minister, I think this is not a good idea, and my thought was reflected by loads and loads of my audience just saying, no, don't like this, don't like this. This is just the Reform Party turning into the Tory Party with a different name. However, today with Robert Jenrick, the same people think this is a triumph for Reform, but you don't share that view. Explain why.
No, I definitely don't share that view. And I'll tell you why. Because Reform was supposedly this new party that was going to take British politics by storm. They were getting rid of all the old guard. And what have you got? They're inviting every one of the old guard in. It doesn't matter whether it's Tory, Labour. You know, they're inviting them all in. So what is the point in them?
Well, yes, sure. I mean, you're not the only one who thinks that, but don't you think Jenrick is a great scout for them? I mean, Jenrick, while he was in the Tories until yesterday, I guess, he didn't seem very comfortable. You know, he didn't like this sort of con-socialist left-wing Tory thing. And don't you think he's sort of switched to a party that far more suits him, that he is a genuine good fit for Reform? Don't you think that?
Well, if we're dead honest about it, right?
Yeah.
I don't particularly believe that Nigel Farage is the great saviour that everyone's saying. I mean, if you look back, very very recent history, Nigel Farage got into politics basically with the aim of destroying the British National Party. And now you can call them what you like, but 20 years ago they were saying exactly what you people are saying now. But getting called names for it. You know, they actually, in actual fact, if you go back then, you'll find that the British National Party were actually exposing the grooming scandal long before anyone ever spoke about it. And Nigel Farage as well, if you listen to his speeches in the European Parliament, he actually turned around when he was in UKIP and said, and he also said it, by the way, on a programme called the Great British Immigration Debate. He actually turned around and said that he wasn't against immigration. UKIP are not against immigration. So, you know, what he's saying now is obviously a load of nonsense.
Well, Derek, let me ask you this. Last weekend, before Zahawi and Jenrick, would you have voted for Reform? And what is your position now?
Well, my position is that, unfortunately, and I'm saying it with a
just give your honest view, mate. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only vote that can, you know, that I hope everyone realises that they've got to do next time, if we ever get a chance at another election. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I've got to vote Reform because as I said before, Nigel Farage took away the only.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Derek? So what you're saying is, despite your misgivings and your fears that too many Tories are joining, you still think Reform is Britain's best option for the future.
They're the only choice, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but you're gonna vote Reform, but with reservations.
I'm going to grit my teeth when I do it.
Yeah.
Because I really do not believe that Nigel Farage is an honest person. I really do not believe it.
Well, he's a politician.
I mean, there's that about
Very
it.
good one, by the way. A very good one.
Of course he is. He's a con merchant. There's no two ways about
that. You support Reform. You're going to vote Reform UK because the con merchant running it is great, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, that's the thing, isn't it? He's the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah. And I personally, I think Jenrick has been a triumph for them, but I respect your view, and you're not alone, Derek. You're not alone. That's interesting. Thanks very much for a good call. You keep in touch, yeah? Derek in Manchester. Got loads of voice notes. Let's play. Well, this is good. At last, we got a couple that aren't. Well, we got 4. How about this? We got 4 WhatsApp voice notes that aren't about Jenrick. So this is Don, and he wants to talk about the West Midlands Police Chief liar, Craig Guilford.
This Chief Constable of West Midland Police, he has to take an oath or solemn affirmation before the Home Office Select Committee before he gives evidence. It's legally obligated. When the evidence given is found to be false, It can be punishable by perjury under the Perjury Act 1911. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not, Don. A lot of people saying that Craig Guildford should not only lose his job, should not only be sacked pretty damn quickly, he may... that he should face criminal charges. He's lied to Parliament. That's against the law. He's lied in public office. He's arguably brought disgrace upon his public office. So, misbehaviour in public office is a criminal offence. So it could be worse for Mr Guildford than just losing his job, which he must inevitably do so within the not too distant future. Should have been today, but it isn't yet. Here's another one. This is Pete on the local elections, the postponing of the local elections, and also our Dutch activist friend Eva, who has been banned from Britain. Take it away, Pete.
The cancellation of local elections is nothing less than cheating. And let's get on to this Dutch activist. Two-tier police, two-tier government, two-tier Kia, please resign.
Thanks. With you, Pete, with you. Let's go to break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Competition time, folks. Time now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star Intercontinental Hotel, and £2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen to find out how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343-418-7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
There you go. You don't want to miss out on the trip of a lifetime, so good luck. Now, a quick text that I've had here that caught my eye. This is from Roger in Hounslow. He said, hi Kev, could it be that Eva from Holland is being banned from the UK by Labour because she is a blue-eyed blonde white woman with a different opinion from the majority in the Labour Party? Yeah, I think it could be, Roger, I really do. But perhaps we're all being way too cynical, are we, hell? Let's go back to the phone. Oh, let's do a voice note first, shall we? This is Trevor again on Eva, the Dutch activist.
Just one thought. That Dutch lady has been banned from coming into the UK because she's not conducive to the British public. Does that mean we can kick Starmer and the Labour government out because they're not conducive to the British public?
Yeah, conducive to the public good. That's a good point. Eva apparently is not conducive to the public good because she doesn't hold the same opinions as Keir Starmer. But good idea. Let's kick out the Labour government because they're not conducive to the public good. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Mark in Lincolnshire, regular caller. Good to hear from you, Mark. Your thoughts on the Jenrick story?
Hi there, Kev, mate. Yeah, I've been boiling about this all day.
Yeah. What's your thought?
My thoughts on it. I just really quickly wanted to just relay, because Derek in Manchester, who you last spoke to there, he might not be on X, but I just wanted to let him know, don't just blindly vote for reform. Wait, just wait.
Well, you're the last living member of UKIP, aren't you? Or is there one other? You're half of UKIP, is that right? There's two of you.
There's a few more than just me, but I'll shortly be leaving them anyway. Yeah. So,
are you going to leave them? Yeah.
Yeah, they're too milk toast at this point. I think they're not offering what this country really needs. But what I wanted to say to Derek quickly was I just wanted to just read out the very last part of Rupert Lowe's tweet today.
What did Rupert Lowe tweet? That's interesting. Go on.
Yes, which is, we need an entirely different way of doing things. Hundreds of men and women from outside politics put forward for election, all of whom must have had nothing to do with how our country has been so abhorrently failed. I'm going to think long and hard over the weekend about my next step. Britain doesn't need more reform from the same arsonists who have burned it to the ground. A real alternative must be provided. I will do that.
I've got a note. I mean, that's interesting. I've got a note from my assistant producer from your call saying that you said, I think the notion that Jenrick is better than Zahawi is crazy. I don't think that's crazy. I think it's true.
I don't think it's a question of whether he's better than Zahawi or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, Zahawi's a fraudster anyway. But the point I was trying to make with this is you basically you don't replace the establishment with the establishment rebranded. That's the point.
Yeah, I get that, Mark. But you know, politicians are politicians, and if they're committed to the reform cause, and I think a lot of people believe in what reform stand for. Then, you know, if someone like Jenrick, who was clearly not comfortable in the Con-Socialist Party, the left-wing Tory party, if they cross the House and join Reform and it's a good fit for them, I don't think that's a disaster. I think that's rather good.
Yeah, the point is, Kev, Jenrick,
Yeah.
He was immigration minister during the Boris wave. That's 3.5 million people brought in over 3 years.
But to be fair, he was parachuted into the Home Office as Home Office minister when Suella Braverman, I think, was or was it Priti Patel? I can't remember. Was actual Home Secretary. And when he got in there, he looked around at this immigration, the migrant crisis situation, and had this sort of Damascene conversion. He said, "This is a disaster." That's when he changed. You're allowed to change in politics.
Yeah, but why? If that's the case, Kev, why was he asking for more asylum hotels?
Back then, but he changed his mind, didn't he? He changed his mind.
Yeah, but why was he also?
You're gonna condemn him for what was this now? 8-9 years ago or something?
He was literal immigration minister.
Mark, I'll tell you what you're asking for. You're asking for a revolution. You cannot have a revolution within our parliamentary democratic system. You have to conform to the rules. You're not going to get a revolution.
You're not going to get a revolution. You have to conform to the rule.
So what's wrong with reform?
However, the point is, and this is where I go back, looking back at that, what Rupert Lowe's talking about, because that's far more in line with what I think, which is, yes, you stay within the system, but when you get into the system, you smash the system. The civil service...
With who? With whom? With who? Who smashes the system?
With a new party, you need something.
But where do you get your MPs from? Where do you get them from?
As Rupert's saying, ordinary men and women.
This is just idealistic, Mark. It's idealistic. I'll tell you why it's idealistic, because you know, and I know, it is what you're proposing is never ever going to happen. you've got to be realistic about this. And I think a lot of people believe that Reform UK are our best bet, at least, of smashing the two-party system and perhaps changing the system towards what people of this country actually want, which is less welfare, solving the migrant crisis, and so on and so forth. It's a nice idea that you and Rupert are having, but it ain't going to happen in the real world. Mark, I've got to move on, but always good to talk to you, mate. Mark in Lincolnshire. Let's quickly listen to our last voice note. This is John again on Dutch activist Ava.
Everyone knows the only reason why she's been barred from the UK is because she spoke against Starmer. And this is the very man who says free speech is still important in Britain. Absolutely not. It's just incredible how bad this country has actually slipped under his control, and the sooner we get rid of this government, the better.
Yeah, I mean, her banning came, I think it was 3 days after she tweeted a direct criticism of Keir Starmer over the grooming gang scandal. Strange coincidence, that, isn't it? Let's go to break. More calls, more messages when we come back.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about potholes. No, let's not. Here is a text from Josh in Coventry. So, evening, Kev. Amazing show as always. My question, do you expect a flurry of Tory MPs to follow Jenrick? It's a good question, Josh. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I do think there will be more defections. I guess that the answer to your question is I don't know about a flurry, but more will come. More will come. Politicians, in the end, I'm not necessarily questioning all of their motives, but a lot of them are opportunists, and they see that the Tory ship is sinking and the Reform ship is rising, and they're climbing on board the winning ship, if you see what I mean. Right, let's go back to the phones. Ash Gould and Andre Walker will be in just a little while after the 10 o'clock news. Still got about 5 minutes to go. So let's quickly talk to Graham in Wolverhampton. Hi, Graham.
Hello, Kev. How are you doing?
I'm good. You think Jenrick's a good idea?
Well, Beans is a Wolverhampton lad.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, it's not only that. He knows the struggles and what we're going through in Wolverhampton at the moment with
your football team.
Problem.
With your football team.
Oh yeah, and that. Thank you, Kev.
Okay, but so let's talk about generic and reform. You like the idea, yeah?
Yeah, because
I agree with you.
He's been in Parliament. You know, he's been in Parliament for quite a while now, and he also resigned over his.
I know. He resigned on principle over immigration. I agree with you, Graham. I think it's a really good day for reform, a terrible day for the Tories, and a pretty bad day for Labour as well. Graham, it's because the show's nearly over. I've got to move on, but please call me. Well, maybe tomorrow. Let's have a chat then. Have a chat tomorrow. Graham in Wolverhampton. Quickly, Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good evening, Kevin. Oh, what a good day for reform.
Yeah, you nearly said a good day for the Tories. It hasn't been a good day for the Tories, has it?
No. Good day for reform. But it's a bad day for Labour. And the thing is, I didn't realise that now that Nigel's got 6 MPs, he can put a question at question time on Wednesdays. I think he knows that Nigel's going to put a question. I think he's going to take the day off and put the deputy in because he won't confront him. I think he's a spineless coward anyway, and I don't think he would like to face Nigel that over.
Well, it will be interesting to see what he does do. But are you of the view, as I think a reform supporter, I didn't think it was a great day for them when they said, oh, we've got the former Tory vaccine minister, Nadeem Sahawi. I didn't think that was a great day for them. A lot of people agree with me. But I do think today for them has been a triumph. Do you share my view on that?
Yeah, totally. Kevin, look, Nigel's a new leader of a new party that will go and make change happen. The old two-party systems are dead and buried. They've had nobody there that's actually managed to run the party. As Nigel said over on the speech tonight, they will talk and they will discuss in private any disputes that they got and not, bring it out.
They're politicians. They won't agree on everything. Politicians never do. There'll be backbiting and fighting behind the scenes. There always is. But I would say the reform project got turbocharged today, and this is a massive sculpt. Interesting times, Herbie. Got to go because it's nearly the news. Good to talk to you as always, mate. Call me tomorrow. And finally, of course, let's finish the show in what is becoming a tradition. Let's talk to Georgina in London. Georgina, generic, good idea?
Absolutely fantastic idea. Honestly, if I was a drinking person, I'd probably be drunk by now. Robert Jenrick being sacked from the Conservative Party saved Kemi Badenoch from the embarrassment of having yet another Tory MP. And let me say, one that I think is the jewel in the crown of the Tory party.
I agree with you. It's not just it's a massive sculpt, and Kemi did the best she could. She seized the initiative this morning, but in the end, the day ran away from her, and it was a terrible day for the Tories, and a brilliant day